Scott, it's good to see you. I don't know if you've been up there long enough to draw any useful comparisons to the physical experience from your previous space missions, but I'm very curious about your mental outlook, your attitude, as you know you face a year in space.
Well, fortunately for me, I'd been up here before. I spent 159 days on the space station, so I knew what I was getting into, and I knew that, being in space for even just a few months is a long time. So, looking at almost a year ahead of me, I knew I had to pace myself and, manage my level of fatigue and stress level and things like that. And I've been doing pretty good so far. I've been here just about a little over 70 days now.
This is ultimately a scientific experiment that you're taking part in, but I'm wondering if it's some ways like a military deployment. Is it like a duration event where you're counting down the days till you get to go home?
Well, I'm trying not to. I intentionally did not think about counting down. Actually, I forget who recommended this to me, but someone suggested that I count up. So I've sort of been doing that, and looking at the longer I stay here is like a milestone in a good way. And I think I'm at day 73, and hopefully I won't get to the point where I start counting down months or weeks or days. I'm trying to not do that.
As you know, the body does some strange things in the zero gravity environment. Fluids gather in your head. There are vision issues. You're 51, not an old man, but certainly, life moves on. Are you concerned about the toll, the physical toll that this will take on you?
Yeah, I actually got an email the other day from one of the researchers that's doing this study with my brother and I, the twin study, and they were talking about these telomeres that are in our part of our genetic makeup that basically is an indicator of our aging. And, the guy, the researcher mentioned to me that they expect mine to be older than my brother's when I get back, kind of not along the lines of Einstein's theory, two twins, one flying very fast in space would age less, but I would age more. So, yes, to answer your question, is something I think about. I do think about the effects of, the microgravity environment on those kind of things, but also the effects of radiation. We get a lot of radiation up here, and, what long-term health effects that has. But, having said that, we have ways to mitigate some of that stuff, and, the reason I'm here is to learn more about it, so someday we can travel further from low Earth orbit than we ever have before.
Well, let's talk about that someday, if we can. You and I are the same generation in which we watched the Apollo moon shots with that sense of fascination, also looking to the future. Right around the corner, we'd be going to Mars and beyond. It hasn't happened. We send unmanned rockets now to these kinds of places. Given the experiment you're in, do you think in our lifetime we'll see man reach beyond?
Well, I hope so. I'm an optimist, and it's definitely something I would like to see. I think that we have a lot of the technology and the knowledge we need to make a trip like that. There are still some things to learn, I think, technically, with regards to systems, life support systems. But the space station has been a great place to hash a lot of that stuff out, and the procedures and the stuff related to human physiology. But what we don't have is a very defined support for such a mission. And these things, obviously are very expensive. I think it would have to be an international effort, and I think it would take a lot of public support and then support within governments to do something like that. But I think we can do it, and I hope to see it in my lifetime.
And, of course, in these long journeys, aside from the physical toll, there is the separation from family. How do you handle that, being away from family, knowing you can't go home on emergency leave?
It's one of the things I worry about more than my own personal safety. I worry about, your loved ones at home, and if something happened to them, there's no way that you could go home and be with them and support them. You have to do it from here. But we have a good team of folks that look after us from the ground. We have good ways to communicate. We have a phone that's available most of the time. We have email. We have video conferences. So it's easy to stay connected. Actually, we watch the NBC nightly news here from the previous night every morning, among other things, to stay connected to Earth. So there's ways to do that, but it is definitely a concern for being up here for so long.
A lot of us have been enjoying the photos you've been posting on Instagram from your unique and extraordinary viewpoint. What do you like to photograph? What do you still look out the window that you want to see after being up there so long?
The Earth is an amazing thing to look at. People, astronauts up here, they have their different things that interest them. For me, in particular, I like using a very long lens that's over probably about 1,200 millimeter magnification for taking very detailed pictures of the Earth. For me, it's somewhat of a challenge to figure out something I want to get a picture of and have the timing all work out and get a really good shot. It makes you think. The pictures I take make you think we're a lot closer to Earth than we actually are. Those pictures are taken from 250 miles away, but it's it's a challenging thing for me, and it's very entertaining, and I hope people that are looking at them are enjoying them.
Scott, all of us have taken a long journey, and you get there, and suddenly, if only I had brought my fill in the blank. Have you had that moment yet? And what is it?
I haven't, and I think that's part of me being having been up here previously. I put a lot of thought into it. But we do get resupply ships. Actually, no, there was something I thought was going to be up here, believe it or not. You wouldn't think this would come from me, but people are like, really, you'd be interested in painting a picture? But I thought there were watercolors up here. They were here last time, but when I got up here, they weren't. So the ground is going to send someone up to me, a small little watercolor set on the next SpaceX I can use. But it's kind of funny. People thought that would be something that would never interest me, but it does. It's a great environment for looking out the window and painting what you see.
I put out a call on Facebook earlier for people to offer up questions that I might ask you. We got some interesting ones. I think I'll skip this one, asking if you wash your hair in space. So let me move on to the next one. What kind of exercise regimen are you able to observe in space, given the limitations in terms of stretching and cardio?
Yeah, I actually have the perfect hair for space, which is none, because I see my colleagues washing it, and it looks quite the challenge. But we have exercise equipment. We have a great resistive exercise device. Everyone loves it. It's really an engineering achievement where you can use air pressure, and it feels like real weight. We also have a treadmill and a cycle ergometer, a bicycle that work equally as well. The Russians have exercise equipment, a treadmill and a bicycle in the Russian segment. So we're pretty good. We've got pretty good equipment up here, and which is fortunate, because it's very important without gravity for us to maintain some level of activity, or our bones and muscles will atrophy over time.
Well, Scott, great catching up with you. Continued success up there. We're thinking about you, and we look forward to talking to you again here in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah, good talking to you, Lester. Thank you.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the NBC Nightly News portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from Federal News Radio.
Tom Temin here on Earth. This is Tom Temin from Federal News Radio.
I heard something. I'm not.
Tom Temin from Federal News Radio.
Hi, Tom.
Good morning, I guess. All right, Scott. Let me ask the first question. From a federal employee standpoint. Hang on a second. Let me just get things set up here a little better. Okay. From a federal employee standpoint, tell us about the daily interaction that you have with NASA down on Earth. Is it a lot of the day? Is it just rarely during the day? What's it like in terms of that interaction between you and Earth?
So we have a lot of interaction with people on the ground in a professional manner. The different control centers, not only in Houston, but Huntsville, Alabama for our payloads and our payload systems. Control center in Munich for the European Space Agency, Scuba Japan for the Japanese Space Agency, and also in Korolev outside of Moscow in Russia. And, we work with those guys all the time. They got our backs. They're watching the systems on board the space station, keeping track of what we're doing. And besides them, we have, interaction with our management via email and video conferences, which is very important, but also, with friends and family at home. We have a lot of interaction with folks on Earth.
And with respect to the bandwidth between the space station and Earth, what is that like, and what kinds of files are you able to exchange in a reasonable manner?
I don't know the number for bandwidth, but one reason is because the systems on space station, how, the ground monitors the systems and what kind of bandwidth that requires is something that's transparent to us. I do know, we can send an email that might be, as long as it's less than 10 megabits, it'll transfer, in a reasonable way. We take HD video that sometimes, we could have a file that is, hundreds of gigabits. Now, it might take a few days to get to the ground, but, we have the capability to do that. The ground sends us high-definition movies, so, that are gigabytes large. So, we have pretty good bandwidth here. And, I never really get the sense that we could use much more. A little more would be better, but we're in pretty good shape.
And describe a typical day. I mean, are you on a 24-hour cycle up there?
Yeah, we keep, a Greenwich Mean Time day. We wake up at, between 6 and 7 Greenwich Mean Time, and different crew members wake up at varying times. But we all need to be ready for the morning planning conference we have with all the different control centers, and that's typically around 7:30 in the morning. And then between then and the evening planning conference, which is also around 7 or 7:30 p.m., we have various activities, whether it's science, all different kinds of science experiments. There'll be 400 of them going on for the year I'm here to, maintaining the systems, just normal like routine maintenance or fixing things that have been broken, exercise, doing outreach events, things like this. So, we have a pretty busy day. And, I think the workday up here basically is from the time you get up until a couple hours before you go to sleep.
It sounds like with the degree of interaction with the ground as you go around the world in the different countries, it sounds like there's probably a little less privacy and maybe a less feeling of isolation than you might have in a normal job in an office somewhere.
Yeah, sometimes you do get the sense that you're living in a fishbowl because you do have cameras on inside the space station. Now, if you wanted to, you could turn them off. Some of them you don't have, very easy control over, but you could. But it's kind of important that that monitoring capability is there because very often, we could be doing something and the ground will, see that maybe, we're making a mistake or there could be a better way to do a certain activity and they'll call us. So. You do get a little bit of sense you're being watched, but it's not really in a bad way. It's kind of in a helpful way.
We're speaking with Expedition 43 flight engineer Scott Kelly from the International Space Station. And recently there have been a couple of failures of launches of supplies to the space station. What is the reaction up there when you hear about a thing like that?
Yeah, when we heard about it initially, we were hopeful that the Russian Space Agency was going to be able to figure out the problem and then get that resupply ship here because it did have things on there that we need. Now, none of those things were things that we couldn't live without, and the reason being is because we plan for these kind of failures, in this business and, such a challenging environment, these kind of things do happen. And, we have redundancy built in. We have a SpaceX resupply vehicle, Orbital Sciences will be flying again soon, and the Japanese cargo ship. So it's it's good that we have this partnership, this kind of redundancy, and we plan for it, and we're able to deal with those kind of things happening.
You are up there for a long time, I guess a year or so. What are some of the, I guess you could call them, psychological tricks or techniques that you use to overcome concentrating on the length of stay and to try to keep it normal feeling, even though you look out and you're 250 miles up in the air?
Yeah, so, I was lucky, I think, that I had flown a long-duration flight before. It was 159 days. The crew on board here, this is day 198 for them, and they're leaving tomorrow. That seems like a long, 200 days to me. Haven't been here 159 days. Seems like a long time. So obviously, a year is longer. But, having that experience, I recognize that I have to just take it day by day. I have to pace myself. I have to get enough rest, get enough exercise, not think about how many days I have left. Someone suggested that instead of counting down, just count up. Look at it every day as, something you've achieved that you can put in your back pocket and think about it as the number gets bigger. It's a good thing, and don't think about how many days you have left.
And what are the rules of the road for human interaction? I mean, you can't get along with everybody all the time, and you can't exactly go out and walk around the block. So how does that all work?
In my experience, in my 4 flights, the people I've flown with have been absolutely awesome, top-notch people. And, maybe I've just been really lucky, but I've never had any kind of personal interaction issues that or in any way, any kind of significance. But, I guess these things can happen. And, we have ways of dealing with it. We do get some guidance on how you would, resolve a conflict if there was to be one. But and I'm sure it's happened on other flights, but I haven't experienced that, and I can't. I can only say great things about the people I've flown in space with.
And I guess I wouldn't be able to do this without asking you how the food is up there, because apparently that's something that NASA works hard on to keep constantly improving.
Yeah, they do a great job. The variety is important, and not only NASA but the different space programs. We have Russian food, we have some European food. I have a Japanese crew member that'll be getting up here next month, and we'll have some Japanese food when he gets here. So they work really hard at it. One issue, though, is fresh food. We don't have things that are fresh very often. It's only when we get a resupply ship, and that stuff doesn't last very long, so we really look forward to that. But, it's good. It hasn't really gotten fatiguing yet. I suspect it probably will at some point, but it's, something I expect and something that I'll have to accommodate.
And there was recently a handing over of the command in the space station from one person to the other, Commander Terry Virts to Gennady Padalka. What happens? Is there a lot of formality, or is it pretty much a low-key type of affair?
Well, that's actually I think in about an hour and a half. We haven't done that yet. It's somewhat formal in that, on any ship, like the space station, is a ship. I think of it more of a Navy vessel than it is an aircraft or a spacecraft for that matter. So it is important for to have a very positive change of command on any kind of ship, and we'll do that in a little kind of formalized ceremony. The details of it is kind of up to the crew, and we'll do it on the NASA television channel. And the most important thing there is everyone needs to be very clear on when that occurs, because there are responses to certain emergencies that the commander is the commander on board the space station is the person that has the the ultimate responsibility and authority in those situations. So it's very important to have a clearly defined change of roles, and we'll do that here in hour and a half or so.
All right. Thank you very much. And good luck.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you very much. My pleasure. Great talking to you today.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes today's event.